Welcome to This is the Day with Mike Rogers. The prophet Isaiah tells us that the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, who shall stand as a banner for the people, for the Gentiles shall seek him. And friends, I'm here to tell you, this is the day. All right, let's pick back up. In the last episode, we worked through Jesus' answer to the sign question in Matthew 24. Now we arrive at the next part of the conversation, the time question. And this is where key elements of biblical prophecy really come into focus. The beauty of the structure. Before we dive in, I want you to see something. The Olivet Discourse isn't random. It's not scattered thoughts. It's carefully structured, balanced, symmetrical, even elegant. Here's the flow. Jesus predicts the temple's fall. The disciples ask two questions: when and what sign? Jesus answers the sign question in detail. Then he answers the when question. And finally, he ends with exhortations. Watch, be ready. So now we've arrived at that moment, Jesus' direct answer to when the temple would fall. Jesus' answer to the when question. The disciples asked, "Tell us, when will these things be?" And Jesus answers with a short but powerful section, Matthew 24, verses 32 through 36. He begins with a simple illustration. The fig tree parable. Jesus says, when a fig tree starts putting out leaves, you know summer is near. In the same way, when you see all these things, you will know the end is near. That phrase, all these things, is crucial. It connects everything. The temple prediction, the disciples' question, the signs Jesus just gave. In other words, Jesus is saying, you will watch this unfold. Not a distant generation, not people thousands of years later. You will see the progression. Just like watching a tree move from bare branches to leaves to fruit. They would watch the signs move forward to their climax. At first, the signs would be general: wars, rumors, unrest. Then more intense: tribulation, deception, and finally, unmistakable events that signal the end is right at the door. That's the point of the parable. The timing would be observable. A time statement of certainty. Then Jesus moves from illustration to declaration. And this is one of the clearest statements in the entire discourse. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. This is not vague. It's not symbolic. This is a direct answer to a direct question. Let's talk it through in a simple outline. Jesus predicts the temple's fall, Matthew 24, 1 and 2. The disciples ask when it will happen, Matthew 24, 3. Jesus says, within this generation. And the word generation means exactly what you think it means. The people living at that time, their contemporaries, their lifetime. So Jesus is placing all these events, everything he just described, the Great Tribulation, the abomination of desolation, the collapse of Israel's universe, everything, within the lifespan of his audience. And he doubles down on it. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. That's not just a statement of truth. It's a statement of certainty about timing. Historical fulfillment. and history confirms it. About 40 years later, within a generation, the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed in AD 70. Everything Jesus described unfolded in that period, a time of intense tribulation, false prophets deceiving many, Roman armies surrounding Jerusalem, believers fleeing the city, the temple reduced to ruins, not one stone left upon another, exactly as Jesus had said. A time statement of uncertainty. But then Jesus adds something important. After giving a clear time frame, he says, "But of that day and hour no one knows." So now we have two truths held together. The general time frame is known, this generation. The exact moment is unknown, the day and hour. That creates tension, but it's a purposeful tension. It creates urgency. Think of Noah. He knew judgment was coming in his lifetime, but he didn't know the exact day. So what did he do? He prepared. That's exactly how the disciples were meant to live. They knew the judgment on Jerusalem was near within their generation, but they didn't know when it would strike. So they had to stay ready, stay watchful, stay faithful. How the early church lived this out. And when you read the New Testament, you can see this mindset everywhere. The apostles speak like people living on the edge of something imminent. The time is short. The end of all things is at hand. The day is approaching. It is the last hour. They weren't confused. They understood exactly what Jesus meant. They knew they were living in the closing days of the Mosaic age. The problem with modern assumptions. Now here's where things often go wrong. Modern interpretations bring assumptions into the text that don't belong there. Assumptions like, the coming of Christ must be a single future event. It must be visible in a physical, global sense. The end of the age means the end of the world. The cosmic imagery must be literal. When you bring those ideas into Matthew 24, something breaks. Because when Jesus' words don't seem to fit his time frame, this generation becomes a problem. So what do interpreters do? They try to fix it. The little foxes. And this is where we encounter what we might call the little foxes, small interpretive moves that end up spoiling the whole vineyard. For example, some say generation doesn't mean generation as a unit of time, it means a race of people. Others say Jesus wasn't talking about his generation at all, but a future one. Others say the prophecy has multiple fulfillments. And still others divide the chapter, part in the first century, part thousands of years later. But every one of those solutions comes from the same place, trying to force the text to fit assumptions that weren't originally there. A simpler, better fit. But if we step back and let the text speak on its own terms, everything lines up naturally. The end of the age is the end of the Mosaic age. The temple's destruction is the central event. The signs lead up to that event. The time frame is that generation. The exact day and hour remain unknown. No stretching, no redefining words, no dividing the passage, just a clear, unified message. A sobering warning. There's actually a warning about this kind of thing in the Old Testament. In the days of the prophet Ezekiel, in Ezekiel chapter 12, God gave a message of near judgment. But the people said, "That's for the distant future." And God rebuked them. He said, "The days are near. My word will be fulfilled in your lifetime." That's a powerful reminder. When God gives a time frame, we shouldn't push it into the distance just because it doesn't fit our expectations. Final takeaway. So here's the heart of Jesus' answer to the when question. The events surrounding the temple's fall would happen within that generation. The disciples would see the signs. They would live through the buildup. They would know it was near, but they would not know the exact moment. And that combination, certainty within uncertainty, was meant to produce watchfulness, urgency, and faithfulness. Jesus' prophecy occurred just as he and the prophets before him had predicted. The Romans inflicted 3.5 years of great tribulation on Israel. The abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet occurred, and Israel's theocratic kingdom ended. While these events were unfolding, the apostles preached the gospel of the kingdom in all the Roman Empire. They wrote the New Testament, and they established churches everywhere as new temples for the worship of God. And we might wonder what motivated them to work and risk their lives to achieve these things. And that brings us to the next movement in the discourse, Jesus' exhortations. Because once you know the time is near, the only right response is to be ready and active. We will look at those exhortations in the next episode. Until then, my friends, thank you for listening and rejoice, for this is the day the Lord has made.